Mark and Jenna had shared nearly a decade of life together in Portland. Their world centered around their 7-year-old son, Liam. Mark, a devoted contractor, spent long hours at construction sites, proud to provide for his family. Jenna thrived in her marketing career, balancing deadlines and motherhood with practiced composure. To outsiders, their marriage appeared steady, perhaps worn thin by the daily grind of work and parenting, but still sound. That illusion shattered one evening. Mark came home earlier than usual to an unusually quiet house, broken only by low voices coming from the living room. When he stepped inside, he froze. Jenna sat close beside her co-worker Chris, and the intimacy between them left little doubt about what he was seeing. Jenna jumped up, fumbling for words, insisting Chris was just a colleague dropping by to talk about work, but the panic in her voice said otherwise. Later that night, Mark checked her phone, and the truth hit him with brutal clarity. She'd been having an affair. The discovery hit harder than any physical blow. His chest hollowed as he told Jenna to pack her things and leave. She pleaded through tears, saying it had been a mistake, born out of loneliness and neglect. But Mark couldn't look past what she'd done, or the fact that she'd brought another man into the home where their son slept. His voice remained calm as he told her to go. Jenna left that night to stay with a friend. For weeks afterward, her calls and messages came endlessly, full of apologies and desperate pleas for another chance. But Mark ignored them all. He poured himself into keeping life normal for Liam. School mornings, soccer practices, bedtime stories. Beneath the surface, though, grief and fury churned like an unrelenting storm. He reached out to a lawyer, filed for divorce, and resolved to preserve his dignity and his son's stability. As the months slipped by, a quiet routine began to take shape. Mornings were simple, evenings filled with homework and dinner. Yet whenever his thoughts wandered, Mark would see flashes of that night, the look on Chris's face, the guilt in Jenna's eyes, and each time the wound reopened. Meanwhile, Jenna sought therapy, cut off contact with Chris, and tried to prove her remorse through action. Her texts gradually shifted from frantic apologies to practical updates about Liam, school events, doctor's appointments, pickup times. Their exchanges became polite but distant. Late at night, after Liam had fallen asleep, Mark replayed their marriage in his mind. He wondered if his long hours had made her feel invisible, if he'd missed the signs of her unhappiness. But every attempt at empathy was crushed by the memory of her betrayal. However lonely she might have been, she had chosen deceit. Then one rainy evening, a knock came at the door. Mark opened it to find Chris standing there, drenched and exhausted. Rage surged instantly. Before Mark could speak, Chris blurted that Jenna had ended things, that he regretted ever getting involved, that he'd never meant to destroy a family. He claimed he'd fallen in love with her, but now wished he hadn't. Mark's jaw tightened. Without a word, he slammed the door. The encounter left him shaking, every buried emotion tearing loose again. He didn't tell Jenna about it. There was no point. Instead, he used that moment as fuel to move forward. When the divorce was finalized, Jenna didn't contest a thing. Custody, finances, property. Her silence felt like penance. Their lives split cleanly in two. Mark's days found rhythm again. Work, school drop-offs, soccer games. Liam's laughter became his anchor. Jenna kept attending therapy, focusing on becoming better, for herself and for her son, hoping to at least earn Mark's respect, if not his forgiveness. They began joint counseling, not to reconcile, but to learn how to co-parent without resentment. Painful truths emerged there. Jenna admitted feeling unseen. Mark acknowledged that his devotion to work had often left her alone. Understanding grew, though forgiveness did not. They set firm boundaries, honesty above all, no mention of the affair, and unwavering focus on Liam's well-being. Slowly, those boundaries became a framework for something functional, almost peaceful. Jenna never missed Liam's games or school events. She showed up consistently, gave Mark space, and proved her reliability. Gradually, Mark's anger began to loosen its grip. Months later, at Liam's school play, they sat on opposite sides of the auditorium. When their son stepped on stage, they both smiled and applauded. For the first time in a long while, Mark felt something close to calm. Their marriage was gone, trust beyond repair, but life was rebuilding around what remained: their son. Mark found healing in small things, coaching Liam's soccer team, fixing up the apartment, rediscovering old hobbies. Jenna kept working on herself, pushing forward in her career. Chris faded into a bitter memory, though his unexpected visit had marked a turning point. It showed Mark that he had a choice: stay trapped in bitterness or reclaim his peace. He chose peace. At Liam's next birthday, they stood apart again, smiling politely across the table as their son blew out his candles. The moment was bittersweet. Scars lingered, but so did their shared devotion to Liam. Mark no longer loved Jenna, but he no longer hated her either. What remained was quiet strength and a deep love for his son. From the wreckage of betrayal, he had built something new. A life defined not by what he'd lost, but by what still endured: the laughter of his boy, the calm of ordinary days, and the steady peace of knowing he had survived the storm.